Welcome to the Jampack Report today for May the 21st of 2023. My name is Samuel Adams, and we have a packed week of gaming news to dig into today because a new Mortal Kombat is on the way, a PlayStation Showcase is happening this week, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has sold 10 million copies, and of course there is much more to get into, including touches on some Halo. You know me, I love some Halo. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Mortal Kombat 1 is on the way, and I'm not talking about a remaster or a remake. This is a reboot of the entire franchise, which I think is a fantastic move, especially for people like me that have dabbled with Mortal Kombat before, but that don't really understand the full breadth of what the story has to offer. This is going to be a great entry point for people that might be new to the franchise, or that are just marginally familiar with it because of those gruesome fatalities that we all know and love. But Mortal Kombat 1 reboots the series on September the 19th with a beta available in August. John Fingus over at Engadget writes, "The next Mortal Kombat game might not be what you expect. NetherRealm and WB Games have unveiled Mortal Kombat 1, a reborn take on the series that promises new fighting mechanics and game modes. You'll see many well-known characters as well as cameo fighters to help you mid-battle, and yes, the gore remains intact. As the teaser trailer below indicates, you can expect plenty of fatalities. Mortal Kombat 1 arrives September the 19th for PC via Epic and Steam, PS5, Switch, and Xbox Series X and S, with pre-order customers getting access to a beta in August." And I want to go back to that point about the fatalities, because in 2023, fighting fans are eating very good. We've got Street Fighter 6 and Tekken along the way, alongside a game like Mortal Kombat 1. And so what sets Mortal Kombat apart from the competition, even going back to other fighting games that have come since then? Killer Instinct, you've got Virtua Fighter, alongside games like I said, Tekken and Street Fighter. These are all on the scene. Mortal Kombat does not pull punches when it comes to its fatalities. It is brutal, it is gruesome, it is disgusting. And I mean, for people that have weak stomachs, you can literally get sick from watching some of these fatalities in Mortal Kombat. All of that stuff might be a turnoff for some people. That is what draws me into this franchise. It knows what it is, and it's not trying to shy away from it. And that is a beautiful thing. Now, what excites me about this game based on this trailer is that it sounds like the character development is going to be a bit deeper than what we might have gotten with past Mortal Kombat games. Because the entire premise here, as you can see, we're coming up on a scene with Scorpion and Sub-Zero about to go head-to-head. They have now been given the choice in this rebooted universe that Liu Kang created to go head-to-head and to fight each other, or to fight a greater evil. Is character choice going to play a part in the game? Time will tell. I'm not doing too much research because I don't want to spoil it, but it is nice to see that these characters are more complex than just an us versus them because we were told that was the way things were kind of scenario. I like that. Of course, this is all CGI, so we don't know what the gameplay itself is really going to look like yet, but based on the trailer that we have here right now, this is a great looking game. I like the vibe. The fatalities, like I said, are brutal. Not only is the CGI gorgeous, this is setting the tone for what you are going to be able to do in the game, literally sucking the life out of somebody, shoving some Wolverine-looking claws through somebody's face. Are you kidding me? I am 100% down for this. Now, if you want to dive in, like I said, the game is going to be available September the 19th for PS5, Switch, and Xbox Series X. You can pre-order for that beta access. There's also a $110 digital premium edition that will offer early access to the game, a Johnny Cage skin, and early access to playable characters and cameo fighters when they arrive post-launch. And if you are truly devoted, a $250 physical collector's edition will include a 16.5-inch Liu Kang sculpture, as well as matching in-game skin, art prints, and a special case. And we have a quick look at what could be coming with some of that DLC thanks to an Amazon posting that went live a little bit early. There are some famous and well-known Mortal Kombat characters, but there are also some cameos thrown in there as well. They write over at Kotaku, according to a now-deleted Amazon listing for the recently revealed Mortal Kombat 1, it appears as if some popular and violent superheroes will be joining the upcoming fighting game's character roster via DLC. Officially announced on May 18th, and then they go into Mortal Kombat 1, who are the characters that have been leaked for the DLC lineup? Peacemaker, the DC character. Homelander from Amazon's The Boys and Omni-Man are all guest characters from outside Mortal Kombat, but on top of that, we also have Ermac, Takeda, and Quan Chi. I'm so sorry if I said those names incorrectly. Like I said, I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy, but again, we've got Peacemaker, Homelander, Omni-Man, Ermac, Takeda, and Quan Chi. I can't wait to get your angry comments down below. So we've got some DLC on the way. We've got the game coming out September the 19th. As far as a Mortal Kombat casual fan goes, this is all lining up to be a pretty impressive roster. Very excited to see what Peacemaker brings. I'm a huge fan of The Boys, so Homelander is exciting, but overall, I could not be more impressed with what we are seeing from Mortal Kombat 1. The announcement trailer is everything that I wanted it to be and more. Keep doing what they're doing because they've got something honed in and beautiful in the fact that this is a traditional Mortal Kombat approach where they're focusing on great characters, great fighting, and some absolutely brutal glory kills. Love it. Want more of it? And we're going to get more of it later on this fall. Next up, we have a very interesting quote from Jim Ryan, who basically confirms that Sony's approach for console exclusives as it is today is not changing anytime soon. According to an interview with Famitsu as quoted here by WCCF Tech, Jim Ryan said, "We also fully understand the importance of PS5 exclusive titles. As I mentioned earlier, PlayStation Studios' main responsibility is to have people enjoy the game experience using the latest PlayStation. We are increasing the number of PS5 exclusive titles and staggering the release of the PC version. I often have the opportunity to ask game fans for their opinions, and when I ask them about the time lag, they say that selling the PC version 2 or 3 years after the release of the PlayStation version is accepted favorably. Now, that's not necessarily a non-truth. Depending on who you talk to, that certainly is not an issue. But they go on at WCCF Tech to say while Sony was always clear that at least the single-player exclusives would continue launching on console first and PC later, we were hoping the port timing would shrink rather than expand. The first big first-party game ported to PC, Horizon Zero Dawn, landed on the platform over 3 years after its debut on PlayStation. However, the most recent port, Housemarque's Returnal, took less than 2 years. In October 2022, PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst said the single-player PS5 games would keep at least 1 year of exclusivity on the console, sparking hope that the wait time could become even shorter. Ryan's fresh statement does not exactly inspire confidence on that count, especially paired with Hulst saying earlier this month that the decision to port a game on PC would be made case by case. So let's talk about this quote from Jim Ryan. First off, who calls people game fans? That's a really weird thing for the head of PlayStation to say. Nonetheless, getting outside of that, I think that there isn't necessarily a problem with this kind of staggered release because ultimately it provides a second wind for any kind of game that comes out. And that's something that you can see with different games coming over to different platforms. If a game like PUBG, for example, is released on PC exclusively, once that came over to Xbox, it got a bit of a bump. Once that came over to PlayStation, got another big bump. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with these staggered releases, and I don't think that PlayStation has a bad objective here. They're wanting to provide value for PS5 players, and they're doing that very well. Now, I don't think that exclusives in perpetuity is good for the industry. I think that overall, more people playing more games is obviously going to, number one, make people happier, but number two, bring in more revenue over time, assuming that porting the game to another console or another platform isn't something that's going to cost an arm and a leg for the company to do. But at the same time, it will provide value for PlayStation if their consoles are going to have exclusive experiences that you can't get anywhere else, at least for a period of time. So I think that Jim Ryan doubling down on this is not exactly shocking. It's a strategy that's clearly working for them. And on top of that, I would also say that depending on the game you're talking about, sometimes their approach to releasing a game on PC doesn't exactly pan out. They don't have the PC prowess that Xbox has when it comes to releasing a game on multiple platforms simultaneously. Because let's say that The Last of Us 2 had come out on PlayStation 4 and PC simultaneously. The Last of Us did not land well on PC when it came earlier this year. It was riddled with bugs and it was not a good version of the game. Now, it's since been patched and it's been improved pretty exponentially, but at the same time, that would have been a very bad look to have your console version run wonderfully and the PC version run terribly. That's something that Sony may not be equipped to deal with in the long term for all of their big first-party games. Not that they even need to deal with it, because their current strategy is fully functional. They're having record-setting quarters, they are doing fine. So this is nothing more than a statement from Jim Ryan saying, hey, If you are wanting to play our games on PC, you better be prepared to wait 2-3 years, sometimes 1 depending on the situation, but do not expect that day and date parity anytime soon. Now, PlayStation might be focusing on their console games, but the good news is at least you won't have to wait long to hear more about what's coming, because a PlayStation Showcase is on the way, coming this week. Over on the PlayStation blog, Sid Schumann writes, "It's almost time to see what's next. PlayStation Showcase broadcast live this Wednesday, May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. British Time. The show will run a bit over an hour, focusing on PS5 and PSVR2 games and development from top studios from around the world. Expect a glimpse at several new creations from PlayStation Studios, as well as spellbinding games from our third-party partners and indie creators. Once again, this is going to be May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. British Time on YouTube and Twitch. We hope to see you there. I certainly will be tuning in. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to watch live, but this is one that I'll be keeping my eye on because this is a very significant showcase for PlayStation and their first major showcase since late 2021. That's a long period of time, and they have an incredible roster of games that are on the way and a lot of good studios working on new experiences that, as Jim Ryan just said, are going to be largely exclusive to PlayStation 5 consoles. I mean, a couple that come to mind are Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. Those alone are massive, but on top of that, we've got Bungie now in the PlayStation family. We also have The Last of Us Factions that very well could be a big multiplayer experience that could be one that shakes up the industry a bit. Depending on how they go, might be free to play, who knows what that's going to look like, but that's one that I want to learn more about. And who knows, again, what other projects they have cooking, because this is the beginning of Phase 2 of the PlayStation 5. That's kind of how people have been talking about this on Twitter and other social media, because when the PlayStation 5 launched, we knew that a new Horizon would be on the way. We knew a new Gran Turismo would be coming. We knew God of War Ragnarok was in the cards. We've gotten those games, and they've been good. Now we're looking forward to the future. What is the next half of the PlayStation 5 generation ready to bring? And as somebody who doesn't currently own a PlayStation 5, I'm ready for these broadcasts to prove why I should go out and get one today. And I think there are plenty of reasons already in this incredible back catalog that's already been built for the first half of this generation, but I'm ready to see what's coming. And so that's exactly what this should be bringing, because we're talking about something that's over an hour long, talking about PS5 and PSVR 2. My question is, what is the split of that? What is the percentage of time spent on PS5 versus what is being spent on PSVR 2? It would make more sense to talk more about PlayStation 5 games, but also they've got to focus on PSVR 2. This is their new hardware that just came out this year. So we'll see what comes out of this show. Again, you can tune in Wednesday, May 24th, 1 p.m. Pacific Time on YouTube and Twitch. Should be a big one to kick off this Summer Game Fest season that we're slowly inching our way into. This is what I would consider to be the first big E3 event of the summer, and that's pretty exciting. Speaking of things that are incredibly exciting, Halo Infinite's Season 4 got some more details this week thanks to a Spartan Chatter, which is a live call with the developers over on their Discord, where the community can ask questions about what they have on their minds, what's coming, what's in development, what may in fact be canceled, and we got some very good answers this week, some of which are disappointing, some of which are pretty exciting. So digging into Xbox Era's recap of everything you need to know, Season 4 releases on June 20th, 2023. Career Rank and Infection are coming at the launch of Season 4 of Halo Infinite. The store and premium Battle Pass armor and weapon coatings will be cross-core starting in Season 4. The 343 developed Plaza remake will release early in Season 4, getting pushed out of Season 3, and playable elites and assassinations are not in active development for Halo Infinite at this time. And we got a very cool look at some of the art for Halo Infinite. As you can see, Infection returns in Season 4. The Fight to Survive starts on June the 20th, and this is something they've been building up through Season 3. You see Iridus kind of making his way into the Spartan systems, and this is going to be the core storytelling point of how they're bringing Infection back, which I think is a really cool way to do it. So I love the fact that Infection is on the way, and it seems like that's going to be one of the major points of the Season 4 content itself. But going back to the what you need to know list, First off, good date, June 20th. I'm wrapping up my Battle Pass now, and I'm grinding it every week. On top of that, career rank is a big one. Now, this is going to be something that reflects the same kind of career rank we saw in Halo Reach, where it follows standard military procedure, and on top of that, it gives players something else to grind. So now we are going to start earning ranks and leveling up that just feels a little bit more engaging whenever I'm spending tons of time within Halo Infinite. Unfortunately, there is no confirmation of whether or not this is going to be retroactive. I think it's kind of naive to assume that they would retroactively go back and give you credit for the time that's been spent on the game. I would say this is something that's starting now and moving forward, but nonetheless, excited to see career rank finally coming in Season 4 of Halo Infinite. Infection, of course, as we said, is a win, and then the cross-core implementation is something that is also going to be a major improvement. And if you haven't been in the loop on the Halo Infinite drama, there are cores within the game that are meant to diversify what your Spartan looks like. There's one that's kind of like this samurai approach. There's one that's a standard Mark 7, a kind of Master Chief approach. There's one that looks like a World War II era style Spartan. Cool stuff like that. But when you earn a cosmetic for one of these cores, it doesn't often carry over to something else. And so this very much so limits the amount of creativity that people have whenever they're customizing their Spartan. So cross-core is something people have been asking for a long time, and now they're finally going to be able to implement that starting in Season 4 and slowly working their way through the entire rest of the season. So I don't think this is going to be perfect at launch, but it's something that's finally getting implemented into the game that's probably going to be a welcome change for a lot of the people that have spent a ton of time earning a ton of different cosmetics over the course of the last nearly 2 years. Then we have the Plaza remake that's coming. I don't care when it comes, just make sure that it's good. Coming early in Season 4 absolutely works for me. This last point is a bit disappointing, although not surprising. Playable elites are not going to be a part of Halo Infinite. That one's not really a shocker. I'm not surprised they're not investing resources into that. Assassinations is a bit more of a hit for me because I really enjoyed the assassinations in Halo 4 specifically that I thought were really good. Halo 5 also had assassinations if I remember correctly, but the flow of Halo Infinite, the more that I've thought about it, doesn't lend itself as much to having the assassinations baked into the gameplay because Halo Infinite moves and feels a lot more like a traditional Halo game that was released back in the day. With Halo 4 and Halo 5, they were more emulating what we had with Call of Duty during that time period, where it was a bit more fast-paced, there was a little bit more going on, the assassinations kind of made sense. I don't really feel like Halo Infinite needs them, but it's another promise that they're kind of saying, hey, we know we said this, unfortunately, not currently in development. It is what it is, as I say with a lot of things with Halo Infinite these days, but those are two of the L's that were revealed during this week's Spartan Chatter. All things considered, though, I'm excited for June 20th. I'm going to keep diving back in because Halo Infinite has continued to be my go-to first-person shooter when I'm ready to scratch that itch. I'm not playing it nearly as much as I was a couple of months ago. I'm not playing it nearly as much as I was a year ago, but it is something where whenever I look at my repertoire of first-person shooters, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo, I'm choosing Halo every day of the week. Haven't gone back to Modern Warfare 2 in a couple of months. I dabble in a bit of Battlefield 2042, but Halo Infinite has, if anything, been consistent with the experience it delivers. I know what it's bringing. I feel like I'm fairly treated. The cosmetics are understandably priced. The progression system, or lack thereof, works well. It is what it is. It's a good game. I enjoy it. And so I'm going to keep coming back for Season 4. So excited to see where they go with it. And of course, Halo Infinite, not the best launch that Microsoft has ever had, not the best Halo game that's out there, but it is a good game nonetheless. So Infection returns in Season 4. I'll be diving into that as well. Lots to love there. But you're going to have a whole lot more to love in the world of Xbox because Microsoft's Activision-Blizzard acquisition has been approved by EU regulators. This is a big win as Microsoft continues pursuing this deal. And I don't want to dive too deeply into this because this is just another regulatory body that has given Microsoft a green check on this. And this is all in contrast to the CMA, who has still said no. They have given their final decision, which Microsoft is set to appeal. So we'll see how this deal continues to shake out. I know on a run earlier, I was listening to the Kinda Funny Xcast, and they had Jeff Grubb on, and they asked Jeff Grubb, Hey, do you think this deal is going to close? With the recent happenings with the EU approving, China also approved this week, the CMA is pretty much the only holdout, and we get the FTC's decision here in a couple of months, which it sounds like they are going to take it to court. We'll see what ends up happening with that, but the likelihood of it getting approved overall seems pretty high. And Jeff Grubb agreed with that and said that it seems like the likelihood of Microsoft carving out some kind of unique deal that excludes the UK from deals with Game Pass or even cloud gaming could be the reality we end up living in, because if everybody else is approving, it probably makes more fiscal sense for Microsoft to take the time to carve that specific part of the world out and just move forward with their plans everywhere else. Because if everything else grows, then that would offset the cost of not having that growth in one specific region. So we'll see if that is something that they explore in the future, but the EU approval is one more box checked off of their list as they inch towards this final destination of whether or not this thing actually goes through. I'm still of the mindset that it will go through, probably with some kind of concession or potentially with some kind of exclusion like what we see with the potential for the UK to be carved out, but it continues to move forward, and the EU is a big win overall for Activision-Blizzard, especially since it hasn't had to be dragged out any more than it already has. The EU just gave them the green light. So again, the FTC is the next big one. We'll see what comes of that. If Microsoft ends up submitting their appeal, the CMA is going to have to go back and revisit their decision. We'll see if it holds up legally in court, but hopefully all of this will be wrapped up by the end of 2023. Would not be shocked in the slightest to see it continue to drag out into 2024, probably not beyond, but could go on for a while. Speaking of this Activision-Blizzard acquisition, Microsoft struck a deal with Nvidia to bring their games to Nvidia's cloud services for 10 years, and it looks like that's starting a bit sooner than people might have thought, because over on the Xbox Wire they write, Xbox debuts PC games to Nvidia GeForce NOW members beginning today. Sarah Bond, corporate VP at Xbox, writes, "We are thrilled to share that starting today, Nvidia GeForce NOW cloud gaming members in the UK, US, and European Union and around the world can now stream Gears 5, and on May 25th, we'll be able to enjoy fan favorites Deathloop, Grounded, and Pentiment. This is just the beginning stage of our forward-thinking 10-year partnership with Nvidia to make PC games from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda available to their GeForce NOW members. Together, we're accelerating access to players around the globe by letting them choose how and when they game. The initial slate of launch games spans our catalog, providing players high-quality, immersive titles with a little something for everyone. Single-player campaigns, story-driven experiences, and opportunities to play with friends and family through multiplayer. Following this initial release, we'll continue to add more content from our portfolio on a regular basis to ensure players can always find a new and exciting game. News and release dates will be shared via GFN Thursday updates. Members will be able to stream PC hits from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda purchased through Steam or the Epic Game Store for eligible games on PC, Mac, Shield TV, and Android devices, or by visiting play.geforcenow.com on Chromebook and iOS Safari. Our teams are also working to bring support for games purchased through the Microsoft Store in the coming months. So a lot to break down there, but they go on to talk more about the 10-year partnerships that have been made with other cloud gaming providers, and this, again, is just a bid to get this Activision-Blizzard deal approved. Players win. You get more games on more services. If you are a GeForce NOW user, this is great news for you, especially the fact the games you have bought on other storefronts can then be streamed through GeForce NOW, thanks to this new integration that's coming, and eventually things that have been bought through the Microsoft Store can also be streamed. But it's good to see this kind of thing, and I love the fact that Microsoft is being proactive about it. This is not something that was done just to start after the deal closes and would be canceled otherwise, because I think that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. But no, Microsoft is going all in. They're working directly with Nvidia and strengthening those relationships, using this as a proving point that they are going to do what they say they are going to do. And I think that's going to go a long way in proving their intentions to a lot of these regulators as they fight the FTC in the months ahead, as they continue their fight with the CMA. This is going to be a really good example they'll have in their back pocket of, hey, we're actually doing this thing. That's pretty cool. The Xbox news keeps on rolling because an Xbox version of Stray has been rated by the ESRB. And if you aren't familiar with Stray, this is a game that really won over a lot of people that are fans of that AA space on PS4 and PS5 when it launched in July of 2022. Of course, it also came to PC, but this is not one that I ever got around to checking out. But it was so good, it was actually nominated for Game of the Year. A lot of people disagreed with that one, but at the same time, it showcased what the PlayStation 5 could do. Visually, it was very nice, but it also kind of tugged at the heartstrings. You play as a small little stray cat trying to find your way back through this big post-apocalyptic city filled with robot residents. That sounds pretty cool. So as somebody who had some FOMO whenever this one came out for the PlayStation consoles, it's good to see this could potentially be coming to Xbox. And I think that the timeline of the rating adds up pretty well to this potentially being shown off at the Xbox Game Showcase and being a same-day drop on Game Pass. That's just me speculating, but that would be a really good fit for this kind of game, or even just the same-day drop on Xbox. I think that would be neat, because that would be kind of similar to what happened with Death Stranding, where that was published on PC by 505 Games, and 505 signed a deal with Xbox to bring it to PC Game Pass. So you had this big, well-known Kojima game that also happened to be a PS4 and PS5 exclusive coming over into the Xbox ecosystem in some kind of way. Now, it's not on console, but it is on the Xbox PC app via Xbox Game Pass. So the perception of that was a win alone, and I think Stray could be kind of a smaller version of that. So keep your eyes peeled. It looks like the cat game is on the way, and I'm excited to dive into that one. Definitely one that's been on my list for a while. But between now and then, we've got plenty of games coming to Game Pass with the second round for May of 2022, including FIFA 23, Planet of Lana, Railway Empire 2, and more. Megan Spur, community lead over at Xbox Game Pass, writes, May has a plethora of genres and game styles coming your way. You can hit the pitch later today or soon. You can build a railway empire, collect monsters, voyage in a magical world, or we can stop here and get right into the games. Let's dive in. Available now, you've got FIFA 23 on console and PC via EA Play, and then coming soon, actually these are now available for the May 18th entries, Eastern Exorcist on console and PC, Ghost Lore is available on console right now, then coming on May the 23rd, a beautiful game in the form of Planet of Lana coming to console and PC, available on day one with Game Pass. Planet of Lana is coming soon to Xbox Game Pass for PC, Series X and S, and Xbox One. In the cinematic puzzle adventure, Lana and her companion Mui go on a voyage of discovery that will take them across the strange and magical world they call their home. Beautiful kind of Studio Ghibli-inspired art here, and I'm really excited to dive into this one. Could be a really good way to span the gap between now and Diablo 4 as well. Then we have Cassette Beast coming to console on May the 25th. This is one that dropped on PC Game Pass a couple of weeks ago, but it is going to be coming to the console version here in just a couple of days. Massive Chalice is also coming to cloud and console on May 25th, alongside Railway Empire 2, which is also a day one drop onto Game Pass. And then on May the 30th, we have Chicory, A Colorful Tale coming as well on console and PC. They've got some DLC and some game updates for Age of Empires 2 and Sea of Thieves. Of course, both of those always putting out some new content as well. And then we have the Ultimate Perks in FIFA 23, the Ultimate Team Pack is available now, and some stuff for Smite. Then leaving on May the 31st, we've got Europa Universalis on PC, Evil Genius 2 World Domination on cloud console and PC, FIFA 21, Floppy Nights, and Lawn Mowing Simulator. You can't take my lawn mowing simulator in the middle of summer. I mean, come on. But all of those are leaving on May 31st, and you can get 20% off if you do want to keep them before they expire and leave the service altogether. Solid lineup. I think that what this shows is that they have some wins here. I think FIFA 23, that was one that we knew was coming, but that's a good one to have for the summer season. Then on top of that, Planet of Lana also coming, which is going to be a very nice little indie win for the service overall. But I also think this shows that they're really keeping a lot in their back pocket for Game Pass for the Xbox Game Showcase, because you don't want to continue throwing out all of these big games on the service when you've got to impress people in just a number of days in the grand scheme of things. So stay tuned, more Game Pass is on the way, inevitably, but a solid lineup for the last chunk of May. Definitely plenty of games here to play if you need something to dive into. But a recent addition to Xbox Game Pass was Ghostwire Tokyo, and one of the receptions, or one of the pieces of feedback, I should say, from the reception of the game for Xbox players is the performance just didn't quite hit for a lot of people. There are multiple different performance modes in here. If you want to focus entirely on visual fidelity, that is something you can do, but if you do want that 60 FPS, they've got a couple of different ways for you to do that, but none really felt stable. The most recent update for Xbox for Ghostwire Tokyo does include some performance enhancements. They say, quote, "We've added various optimizations to improve overall game performance, particularly on Xbox consoles, including an HFR performance graphics mode for Xbox Series S, which should result in a smoother experience when enabled. You can find this new setting under Options and then Graphics." And then, of course, they talk more about the Spider's Thread, things that they've added in. But I dove back into Ghostwire Tokyo, and it still felt good. I never personally had issues with the performance on console, but this is a game you absolutely need to check out. If you didn't play Ghostwire Tokyo on PS5, it's also available over there. Just came to Xbox Series X and S a couple of months ago, but it's one of those games where you can best experience it by just hanging out on the couch and getting into it. It's got a weird story, interesting vibe, simple gameplay. The combat doesn't do anything that's groundbreaking, but it is visually entertaining. It is just something that's really neat. Kind of has a Kojima vibe in and of itself, speaking of Hideo Kojima, where it's just one of those what's going on kind of things. So I'm really enjoying it now that I wrapped up Jedi Survivor. This is the game that I'm going back to wrap up, but I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. So you might as well. It's available now on Xbox Series X and S if you do want to dive in. To round out today's show, we have two Nintendo stories. First, more Game Boy Advance games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online, and all three of them are Super Mario games. We have Super Mario Advance, Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2, and Yoshi's Island Super Mario Advance 3, which, according to Marcus Stewart on Game Informer, first released throughout the early 2000s and are enhanced portable remakes of Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario World, and Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, respectively. And you can check out some gameplay. If you haven't seen Nintendo Switch Online, they have fleshed out the service in a very big way. Now, one downside is it's not quite the experience we got from the Virtual Console back in the Wii days or the Wii U days, where you bought a game for a pretty affordable price and you could keep it in perpetuity. This is one of those things that does rely on having that subscription like Game Pass Ultimate, like PlayStation Plus, because if you do lapse that subscription, you lose access to these games. At the same time, it's cool to see these games preserved in some kind of capacity on the Nintendo Switch that brings them forward for you to enjoy. And so there's a quick look at everything you can get from the expansion pack, which includes the Game Boy Advance games, Nintendo 64 games, and some perks for a lot of other games, including some Sega Genesis joints as well. I'm not somebody who still subscribes to Nintendo Switch Online, just not really my cup of tea most days of the week. But I have been getting back into Breath of the Wild a bit to scratch that Zelda itch still. But if you're a hardcore fan of Game Boy Advance games, these three Super Marios are certainly some to keep your eyes on. But finally, you might just be busy with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, much like the other 10 million people around the world that have picked up a copy in its first week. Devin Pritchard, Nintendo of America's Executive VP of Sales, Marketing, and Communications, says many players are returning to Hyrule with its all-new mysteries and possibilities, and with the record-breaking launch of Tears of the Kingdom for Nintendo Switch, we can't wait to see what they'll create in the game and the stories they'll share next. We're grateful for all of our fans who have shown their passion for The Legend of Zelda over the years, and these sales numbers for the latest installment continue to show the strong momentum for both the franchise and Nintendo Switch this year. Indeed, it does. This is a game that I haven't seen take over, or I should say I haven't seen a game take over in this same way in a very long time. Breath of the Wild is a good example of how that just was a viral sensation when the Switch came out that kind of aligned with Nintendo being back in the saddle. The Switch was a return to form for Nintendo in a lot of ways. And with Tears of the Kingdom, it's something that is just a cultural phenomenon at the moment. My TikTok is filled with it, my feed is filled with people making new creations, and of course I run in gaming circles, but I've seen people talk about this outside of the podcasting space, outside of the gaming space that I'm in, on Instagram, Twitter, etc. That shows how impactful this is going to be. And so 10 million sales in the first 3 days is nothing that's shocking, but it is just a confirmation this game is going to do some massive numbers and absolutely shift some consoles as well. I'll be interested to see if this changes Nintendo's projections for how many Switches they plan to sell this year, because as we all know, the Nintendo Switch could potentially be getting something of an iteration, a successor, if you will, within the next year or so. But with the console getting as old as it is, if you have a good game like this and affordable hardware like the Switch Lite, like a Nintendo Switch, which is still affordable in comparison to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, that might be enough to convince somebody to go out and pick one up even all these years into the system cycle. We'll see what happens, but Tears of the Kingdom was a massive win and continues to be a win for Nintendo, and they're just raking in the rubies with that one. But that rounds out this week's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoy this one and you're new here, be sure to drop that like down below. And of course, add the show to your podcast feed and get it delivered right to you each and every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It's always a pleasure to break down the news with you all. But until next week, you guys have a fantastic one, and as always, keep on playing.